Winston Peters has this afternoon announced New Zealand First will not support the government's free trade deal with China. Frankly, there's no surprise there. Indeed, New Zealand First has consistently signalled that was their position. And remember, the Greens and the Māori Party both oppose the free trade agreement too. But unlike those parties, Winston Peters is Foreign Affairs Minister. Can he remain so? He joins us from Wellington now. Mr. Peters, nice to see you. Can you remain Foreign Affairs Minister, given your position on this policy?
Well, of course.
I want to quote Mike Moore, former Foreign Affairs Minister, former Trade Minister, Prime Minister, head of the WTO. How can our Foreign Minister not support this important deal? In any other democracy or at any other time in New Zealand history, they would resign from their job or be fired.
Because just over 20 years ago, Mike Moore and his colleagues threw New Zealand industry and manufacturing to the dogs. They opened up our economy to all sorts of incoming pressures, never thought about where we would be today in terms of today's negotiations, and now want somehow some of us to forget that. The reality is that if we hadn't have made those awful mistakes, we'd have gone into this free trade agreement negotiations with a chance of being totally successful, and we have not done as good as we could have done.
What you think? So wait a minute, I'm a bit confused about this. You think that, and I agree with you.
Now you mentioned Mike Moore. I'm telling you, Mike Moore and Roger Douglas, back in '84, threw open our economy and said the rest of the world will join us.
Totally,
well, they didn't.
They did. This would seem now, prima facie, to be a case, better late than never,
no, sorry,
of the rest of the world joining us. Isn't this what we all hoped would happen when they did that?
No, I'm sorry. It was totally facetious to have made the case out back then, to try and argue somehow now we can pick up from that mess and make a go of it in terms of going into... No, listen to me. No, you asked me a serious question. You deserve a serious answer.
I'm not getting a serious answer to the question I asked you. You're delivering us... You're delivering us a passionate monologue on the failings of Mike Moore.
No, you raised Mike Moore. You used him as an expert. I'm telling you that when they threw New Zealand trade open to the rest of the world did not join. We went into negotiations with China knowing that we couldn't possibly get the kind of deal, in my view, that would have been possible with a different environment.
Okay, point taken. Can you, I want to get back to the issue of whether you can remain Foreign Affairs Minister.
Well, I said obviously.
Can you name another Minister of Foreign Affairs in history in New Zealand or any other Western democracy at all, one, just one, who voted against a major platform of the government's foreign relations policy and remained in the job?
Yeah, the German Foreign Minister did it 25 years ago.
Who was it? And what was the platform?
And he ran in the job under two different administrations.
So you believe there is no issue here, and there is no issue with the kind of comments that your Deputy Leader Peter Brown was making last week?
Look, John, you actually could be better than that. You're coming onto the show with a stereotyped series of questions. They are nonsensical. We've had a marvellous working relationship with the government and me as Foreign Minister these last 2 and a bit years. It'll go on working very well. Helen Clark knew before she went to China that I did not agree with this deal.
Absolutely. Although they need your vote, don't they? Which makes them pragmatists to a certain extent.
No, don't start accusing them of being something else that they're not. They always knew that we would agree to disagree on some issues.
Absolutely.
This was always one of them. Can
I play you what your Deputy Leader Peter Brown said last week?
No,
listen to this. Why not?
No.
I want you to listen to this. I want you to listen to this.
You're interviewing me. You're not interviewing Peter Brown.
You're his leader.
You're his leader. When you lose the argument, do you just switch the questions or what?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Well, you are. Look, I think there's one wrong with this free trade agreement is this. They've got a series of occupations that they say they want to bring to New Zealand. I think I'm going to add the media to this, because I can buy 49 people in the media in China for you, and they'd all do a better job, John.
You see this?
Now, that's an improvement I would like to have in this agreement.
Okay. Have you finished now shooting the messenger?
Well,
have you got that off your chest?
No, I'm just shooting someone who's being rude, who doesn't want to hear the answer when he asks the question.
Okay. Have you finished your answer?
And the Chinese don't do that.
No, I'm sure they don't, Mr. Peters. I want to play you what Peter Brown said last week, your Deputy Leader. Listen to this.
Why?
Listen to this.
Excuse me, Peter, what are your concerns about the latest immigration statistics?
Oh, they're horrible. We're going to flood this country with Asian people with no guarantee that they're going to know what they're going to do when they come here.
Now that is salient in this conversation. Can the man who is his leader remain Foreign Affairs Minister in New Zealand?
You decided that you would repeat last week's interview with Winston Peters. Well, let me tell you something, right? There's not one Chinese political leader or Asian leader of any political persuasion anywhere in Asia who doesn't agree with New Zealand First immigration policy.
Sorry,
you find me one.
Oh, do you ever answer a question these days?
Well,
I'm asking you.
Your question's nonsense.
Can a man who is his leader, that man's leader, remain Foreign Affairs Minister, given that 2/3 of the world's population is Asian?
And I'm telling
in
you
your job,
nonsense.
you have to deal. You're telling me my question.
And John, I'm telling you, your question is total nonsense because every Asian country is very particular about a very tightly controlled immigration program. They understand what we say. Why don't you?
Because you are the Foreign Affairs Minister in a government
That's not an answer with respect.
that feels differently from those governments.
No, I'm sorry. Every foreign minister in Asia understands
Mr. Peters, you're not a Foreign Affairs Minister in an Asian government. You are a Foreign Affairs Minister in a liberal Western democracy that has different standards, which presumably you ought to subscribe to.
I'm sorry, we don't have different standards. Every politician in this country will tell you that their immigration policy is designed to advance New Zealand's economic and social welfare. Now, show me whether that's true or not.
I would say that Helen Clark said, and I will quote her, over time, this FTA will result in the elimination of tariffs on 96% of New Zealand's exports to China and is estimated to lift New Zealand's export revenue from China by between $225 million to $350 million each year. She would say this FTA is indeed advancing New Zealand's interest. Do you disagree with her?
I'm saying to Helen Clark, as I'm saying to you and every New Zealander that cares to listen and watch tonight, that we could have, if we'd had a better environment to negotiate, done so much better. 200 million, 250 million, 300 million, you know as well as I, that the currency movements in this country have been up by 40% upwards, damaging exporters in the space of less than 3.5 years. So if you take off 20% of tariffs, and yet your currency movement has gone 40%, pray tell me how does that advantage New Zealand exporters or our wealth?
I just want to clarify this. I want to pick up on what you said there. Your issue with this is not that you object to it per se, but that it wasn't good enough.
Exactly. That's what I said today. But you decided to turn into some sort of immigration argument, John.
Well, you are the Minister
that's why
of Foreign
I want to get
Affairs.
more Chinese media people in here.
Yeah, excellent. I'm sure they do a fantastic job.
And they cost less.
Yeah, well, I'm sure they would.
1/49th of what it cost to have you on the show.
Well, I'm delighted. I'm delighted. I suggest TV3 get in touch with them. Can I talk to you about...
Well, you're foreign-owned. Of course they will.
The signing of this agreement is a very significant achievement for New Zealand. Helen Clark, do you disagree with her?
My point is, it could have been so much more significant. Please explain to me this one thing. Why do we phase out between 7 and 9 years... And yet a country that's given China almost free trade for 20 years...
Yeah, but we've given everyone almost free trade for 20 years. That was your point at the beginning of the program.
Can you possibly wait until I finish? We haven't had a free trade agreement with everyone. We've had it with China. So here's this phase out, us 7, 9 years, China between 12 and 17 years. That's 20 years after we've given them virtual free trade. That's 37 years later. Now, tell me, why would that be fair?
Isn't this, though, a case of making up now? Isn't this, though, a case
John,
of better late than never?
It's the detail, and I wish you wouldn't skim over what is so fundamentally important.
Well, wait a sec. Helen Clark doesn't feel that. John Key doesn't feel that. The leader of the National Party. The overwhelming majority of New Zealand businesses don't feel that. You must admit...
Know that. Sorry, you've never surveyed the overwhelming New Zealand business at all.
Well, there are a large number of New Zealand business representatives up in China at the moment hoping to get on the coattails of this deal.
You don't know whether they're a majority, you don't know whether they know all the details or all the facts, and worst of all, they've been given no choice at all. It's either this or nothing. That's my point. And at the end of the day, the people who are being consistent here are those that have said, be cautious about this, we need to get a fairer deal.
Winston Peters, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. Hey, where would we be without you at some level?